In the opening screen of Civilization, you have a range of choices here. Start a new game, load a save game, use the Earth mode that I mentioned earlier with a copy of the world map from the real world. And you can also customize the world. The world will still be randomized, but you can choose the amount of landmass, the temperature, the climate, and the age of the Earth. And this is the opening scene when you start a new game, because it goes directly from that to the beginning of the game. Of course, the endorsement of evolution is sort of interesting again because of Sid Meier's evangelical background. But these are the skill levels, or difficulty levels. Chieftain is the easiest, so I'm choosing that one to make it easy. The level of competition is measured in civilizations, so you can have 7 down to 3. I've chosen 7. And these are all the tribes or nationalities. In some of the more advanced versions of Civilization, you can also do a custom tribe. The Mac version, for example. But I'm going to go with the Romans here. I initially couldn't decide which one to go with, though. But these are the original. There we go. I was going to say those are the original nations included in civilization, which have only expanded subsequently. And in this case, I've only been given knowledge of irrigation, mining, and roads. And sometimes you're randomly given a little bit more knowledge at the beginning of the game, but not this time, apparently. So I have to start from scratch. Sometimes they'll also give you an extra settler unit. Again, in this case, that didn't happen. So then they explain the controls and so on. This is a crash course before you begin. And it says, if your first task is to find a suitable site and found your capital city, the best city sites are near rivers, grasslands, coastal areas, or areas near special resources. In this case, I'm going to let the computer decide for me, for the most part. But the first city has to be founded immediately, exactly where I stand. The reason for this is, as I've mentioned earlier, in Sid Meier's Civilization, one of the only ways you can win is by settling as many cities as possible as early as possible in the game. And that's exactly what I'm going to do. I'm going to sacrifice everything for settlers. I'm not going to build even militia units for these cities initially, which will make them vulnerable, and it will be a gamble. This is actually my third attempt at successfully building a civilization. There you choose what science to research, and I'm choosing alphabet. And I'm going to keep these cities vulnerable until I encounter some kind of potential enemy. And then only then will I build up the military. Because in the early stages of the game, settlers are your defense. The only way to build a survivable society is to build it very, very large. So here I've just developed alphabet. Another advantage to this approach is that initially you can make a lot of technological advances without building a lot of infrastructure, like libraries and universities. I'm going to go with Code of Laws for my next technology, because it's a good idea to have a government other than despotism, which is the government you start with, and which is grossly inefficient. Even a monarchy is better, and so I'm going to aim for that. Here's my first settler unit, and if you notice, I told the city to continue producing settlers for as long as possible, essentially. So they're warning you, don't expand beyond your ability to defend yourself. Barbarians and hostile armies may appear without warning. I agree with that, but I don't agree with striking a balance between founding cities and building up existing ones, because in the early stages of the game, you're really out of luck if you don't found as many cities as possible. And notice the barbarians are pretty weak in the chieftain level. So my settler survived an attack by 3 barbarian cavalry units. So you're not totally helpless in the early stages. Anyway, even if you don't have much of an army. So here I've already developed Code of Laws. It's not even 3000 BC yet. And it allows monarchy with ceremonial burial, so it makes sense to go with ceremonial burial next. One other priority you have to aim for is having an efficient government. So monarchy as early as possible, and you need to switch to republic as soon as you're able to provide your citizens with enough luxuries so that they don't immediately rebel. Because without relatively modern forms of government, you're much further behind than it immediately appears. So now I'm going to build more settlers with this new city. Again, not building any military units yet. I'm almost out of time though, so I'll continue in the next video.